Everybody, Bob Kiser here. Welcome to the second of three webinars in this series based on my book, Create the Life of Your Dreams. I'm really glad to see everybody again. We'll kind of see you again. I see a lot of people that were on the line last Thursday, so welcome back. I think we have some new people, so very, very cool. First of all, let me introduce myself. My name is Bob Kiser. I am a Chicago-based life coach and leadership coach. For all of you not in Chicago, it's beautiful here. This is really good weather. It's a good time to be in Chicago. So summers are always good here. So anyway, I'm very happy. And also working this webinar with me is Mike Copland. Mike, want to pop in real quick and say hi?
Hello, everyone.
So Mike is producing this webinar with me. Usually he's in LA, but tonight you're in...
I'm in Wausau, Wisconsin.
Woohoo!
Live from Wausau, Wisconsin.
We're actually in the same time zone, which is really cool. Anyway, hi, Mike. Bye. Oh, actually, Mike, before you leave, yes. Why don't you explain to everyone how they can sign in or they can ask us to speak?
Okay, so if you actually, Bobby, you have to invite them to speak. So if you chat and participate with us or with Bob on the call, he may invite you to speak if you ask a question or if you want to clarify something, or you could even say, hey, I want to talk. I have something I want to say. And then we can invite you to speak. And so you might see something pop up on your screen and you just have to accept it when it asks if you would like to speak. So if you do see something pop up, say yes, and then your mic will go active and you can talk straight to Bob.
Very cool. I'm hoping this works tonight. So I want to talk to everyone. Okay, thanks, Mike. I think we talked about how to talk to me. We talked a little bit about what this web series is. Last week, we talked about how to say no when no is impossible to say. Tonight, I'm doing a talk called Accentuate the Positive to Eliminate the Negative on positive thinking and how to use that to create change in your life. As a preview for next Thursday, and I hope you sign in, but next Thursday, I'm doing something called The Journey of a Recovering Perfectionist. I think the title says it all. So anyway, let's get into tonight's webinar. I'm going to put on my PowerPoint and we'll get going. Before we do, actually, I have one question for you. And you can use the chat for this if you want to. Actually, that would be great. The question is, when you work on weaknesses, do you concentrate on that weakness or do you work on your successes? So when you're working on weaknesses, when you're trying to change your life, do you think about working on that weakness or do you think anyone can? So do you think of your weaknesses or do you think of success? I'm gonna put on my glasses so I can read. So I don't see anything quite yet. Feel free to use the chat down at the bottom right-hand corner.
Hey, Bobby, can you repeat it one more time because your camera froze for about 20 seconds.
Of course.
Repeat what you want everyone to do.
Sure. So I would like everyone to think about this question and then write the answer in the chat box right down there. So when you're working on your weaknesses, okay, you're working on something in your life, do you think only about working on that weakness or do you think about your strengths? So when you're trying to fix your life, trying to fix that, whatever you think it is, do you only work on fixing that?
Okay, everyone just stand by. Having a little technical difficulty. Bobby will be right back.
Hi, everybody. Hopefully you can see me now. Sorry, I think I got frozen. Hopefully. Good. I think I'm back. So, sorry for that little interruption. So the question I have is, when you're working on your life, okay, do you think about working on your weaknesses or do you think about working on your strengths? So when you're working on your life, when you're trying to fix that, whatever it is, work just on that weakness alone. What about your, go ahead and write that in the chat, right down there. Alex says, howdy, y'all. Hi, Alex. So do you work on your strengths or do you work on your weaknesses? To put a positive slant on my day, that's you work on your positives. Hi, Victoria. I turn on my glasses because I can't see. So Victoria says to put a positive slant on her day, she works on the positive. So do you think about your positives or do you think about your negatives more when you're working on changing your life? Anybody else have any other thoughts? So someone says that they focus on their weaknesses when they are trying to fix their life. Okay. And actually, Alex, hi Alex. Alex says he leans towards his strengths. That's really cool. Good. Well, so keep that in mind as we're kind of going through this webinar. And yeah, well, I'm going to do my didactic part. I'm going to talk a little bit. I'm going to pop off the screen, and then I'll come back on, and then we can have a conversation. Hi, Max. I didn't know you were going to be on tonight. Hi. So Max says when he's wallowing in misery, he focuses on the weaknesses, but then he leans into strengths. And I like that. I think I can relate. So if I'm feeling bad about myself, all of a sudden the weaknesses just pop up, and that's what I concentrate on. And if I'm in a really positive mood, if I'm live coach Bob, you know, I can work on the positives. I think that's pretty natural for everybody. So I'm gonna move my PowerPoint, and you'll still hear my voice. But if you have something to say, just pop in with the chat. I can see that, and I will make sure that we address whatever question you have. Okay. Just 1 second. So everyone should see my PowerPoint. Okay. So first of all, I just want to tell everyone that this is coming from my book, Create the Life of Your Dreams. You can get it several places. You can get it on Amazon. You can get it at barnesandnoble.com. And you also can get it at Unabridged Bookstore, which is a local bookstore in Chicago. They are awesome people, so I definitely suggest going to them. But wherever you get it, it's a good book, I think, because I wrote it. So here's the thing. Clients come to me for basically two reasons. One, they want something new for their life. Or two, something is wrong and they want to fix it. And most of us, not everybody, but most of us think that to, quote unquote, fix our lives, we need to fix what is wrong with us. We're broken. We must fix that thing. And in this process, we tend to focus on that thing. And so most of us use that to work on our negatives, our problems. See, my clients are amazing. They can quickly tell me what is wrong with them. Without one empowerment question, they will very thoroughly come up with a list of things that are wrong, a false inventory a mile long. I ask them about their strengths, however, and that's when the resistance usually arises. See, most clients hesitate, and some even get a little miffed at me. I mean, they tell me that they come to me because they're working on their weaknesses. They don't worry about their strengths. So that makes it even challenging, more challenging, when I ask them to write out their 50 strengths. What is it that they're really good at? Now, why the resistance to looking at strengths? I mean, some of us believe that we don't have the life of our dreams because of the failures created by our weaknesses. I mean, I think the thought is, if I could overcome my flaws, well, then I would be successful. I mean, well, so looking long and hard at the weaknesses in order to change, I mean, that makes sense, right? I mean, it can be useful. But I have also found looking at the strengths can create success. And how? Sometimes Well, sometimes you can perfect an already existing strength so much in one area that it compensates for a weakness in another. Does that make sense to everybody? I'm not seeing any questions, so I think so. So this idea of working on a strength to compensate for a weakness, there's one example I can think of, probably one of the best examples I can think of, and it's with Tiger Woods, considered by many to be one of the greatest golfers of his time. And he acknowledged the sand traps are definitely his weakness. He knows his strength lies in long drives and putting. So then I think it would be natural to think that he and his coach, Butch Harmon, would work on the sand saves, right? That's his weakness. Actually, they've said they work on perfecting Tiger's strength of driving and putting. Isn't that funny? I mean, okay, so the question is, does it work? Well, one of Tiger Woods' biggest wins was played on St. Andrew's course, known for its extreme amount of sand traps. And he was the only golfer who didn't land in any of the dreaded sand traps. I mean, due to his perfecting his accuracy of driving, I mean, he didn't have to worry about his weakness of sand saves because he kept the ball in the course. He didn't have to execute any sand saves. So sometimes when focusing on a weakness, a fear of not being able to conquer it can be created. And it becomes so extreme that it interferes with the ability to function. I've seen in my clients, and even myself, this fear become a far worse obstacle towards succeeding than the original weakness. I think one of the biggest tragedies is when someone becomes so discouraged due to not being able to overcome a weakness, they just give up. As a coach, my experience has been that the change happens so much easier and usually quicker when a client has a positive attitude and maintains good self-esteem. Now, a technique I sometimes use with clients stuck in trying to solve a problem or figure out something that's not working for them is to have them write down 5 of their strengths. Then we look at the ways each strength may solve their current problem. Now, the idea is not to find the exact perfect solution for the problem with just these 5 strengths, though I will tell you, sometimes that does happen. But rather, my goal is to switch their focus from the negative, quote unquote, I can't solve this problem, to thinking of a positive solution-based one. Sometimes by creating a good self-esteem and positive attitude, weaknesses can be eliminated. Now, an example I can think of for this. Example of, it's kind of like the Tiger Woods story, a little different though. An actress friend of mine who was known for her great singing voice in Chicago. Now, she said that when she was trying to fix her singing, it actually got worse. That when she would concentrate on trying to hit the right notes, that she would get nervous and then her air wouldn't flow and she felt like she flubbed everything up. And one day she got so flustered and just sick of the whole thing, she told herself she wasn't going to worry anymore about her voice and if it sounded good. She was just going to sing the song, thinking about her character, concentrating on her acting. And she's an amazing actress, and she feels really comfortable about acting. Funny thing is, when she did that, her voice suddenly sailed. I'm not kidding. Now she's thought of to have one of the greatest voices in musical theater in Chicago. I know personally she's a great actress, and the byproduct of that is her great voice, but yeah, she concentrated on the things she does really well. So, any questions so far? I'm a little surprised that no one has any questions or thoughts about it. What do you think? Any questions so far? I want to stop and give you a chance to ask questions. Do you agree with what I'm saying? Do you want to challenge me? I love when people have other thoughts. It helps all of us grow. So feel free to, if you can write it in the chat, that would be the best for now because I can't see my other screen. But anybody have any thoughts? So how do you get rid of your liabilities? Oh, Max, oh, awesome. So how do you get rid of your liabilities? And I'm going to translate that to, and I did use the word liabilities, so your negatives, your whatever. So, so I think there's several ways that you can think about this, is that that you can work on your liabilities like we talked about, like most of us do. Like I have to work at them and keep working. But But I think with this thought, and this is just one way of looking at it, is that maybe let go of working on that liability and instead think about the opposite. What is the opposite of that liability? So whatever you're working on, okay, let's say it's, I don't know, if you are playing baseball and your strength is not in running. Actually, I think this is kind of like Babe Ruth. That the strength is not in running, then maybe work on actually batting, you know? Work on getting that home run so then you don't have to run as fast. I mean, that might be one suggestion. Does that kind of help, Max? Hopefully that helps. Any other questions or comments? I'm actually going to move on to kind of talk about maybe how you kind of implement this way of working on your liabilities. So some things to think about, okay? So how does it work? Well, try this this week. And thanks, Max. It says, yes, focus on what you can change. Oh, I like that, Max. That's great. Someone else said, I love the thought on this. Focusing on assets lightens me up to deal with challenges. I agree. Again, one of the byproducts of this is that you remain in a better mood, because I think, as someone said at the beginning, when I'm negative, when I'm in a bad mood, when I'm depressed, life isn't going too well, and my working on things is impeded. So I like that, and I do agree with that. So if I'm working on my strengths, I'm lighter, I'm happier, and I have more energy. So that's great. Good. So I challenge you this week to work on this. Okay. Perhaps this week, when you encounter something that you want to change, try focusing on your strengths rather than trying to correct your weakness. Okay. Some helpful hints. Acknowledge and celebrate all of your successes, no matter how small they are. Even if you think it's not anything to write home about, this week, acknowledge it to yourself. Yes. 2, when thoughts of weakness surface, and they will, simply acknowledge them and try to think of a positive trait you possess. What is one of your strengths that might counter the weakness that you are encountering right now? So the big thing about this is that you're not going to get rid of thoughts, especially thoughts of weakness, especially if that's how you operate. And that's okay. What I suggest is that instead acknowledge that and then think of the positive, okay? We don't want to beat ourselves up for thinking of the wrong thoughts. That's kind of going to defeat our purpose. Last thing is, if you're having difficulty seeing your strengths, let me try that again. If you're having difficulties seeing your strengths, ask a good friend to help you. Acknowledge the strengths you see in them to yourself, and think of ways that you've succeeded because of that strength. So think of, like, when I look at my friends, like, sometimes it's hard for me to see things inside myself, but I can see things in my friend. If I can see them in my friend, then most likely I have that trait. And my good friends, they know me better than I know myself. And sometimes they can point out when I'm doing better at something, even when I don't see the progress. They do. So I see another question. Any questions on that, or any thoughts? And then I have a question that popped in. Any questions? Okay. So a question I see is, why do people tend to ignore their strengths? Isn't that a great question? I don't know why everyone ignores their strengths. I think in our society, though, that an emphasis is placed on the negative and working on the negative, and that sometimes when we work on our strengths that we, I don't know, seem imposters. We don't see the strength for ourselves, but even if we do, we want to kind of hide our light because we're afraid of maybe making other people feel uncomfortable, or maybe people know something that we don't know. Maybe I think I'm really good at something, but then, you know, someone will point out to me that I'm not as good as I think. For me, that can be startling and jarring, and I don't want to have that experience. I think it's easier to think negative about myself and be wrong than to think positive about myself and be wrong. So, but anybody else have thoughts? Why do we tend to ignore our strengths? What do you guys think? And I'm actually going to pop out of this and get back so I can see see you and you can see me. So. Okay, I'm back. Hi, everybody. So what do you think? Why do people tend to ignore their strengths? And Max, thanks, said extreme humility. That could be. Actually, I wonder what the definition of humility is. I think people have different thoughts of it. Being humble, sometimes people think being humble means that that we need to not express our strengths. And I'm not sure that's humility. I think being humble means that we are balanced and that we don't over-exaggerate our strengths, but also we don't over-exaggerate our weaknesses. So like humility, that is on the far end of the continuum and not helpful. Yeah, and I'm not, again, I think, thanks, Max, I'm not sure that is humility. I think humility, again, is the balance of who we really are, the truth of who we really are. So the truth is I have some strengths. The truth is I have some things I need to work on. So that's being right sized, as some people might say. My dad, George, hi, says, are positive people better employees? Interesting. Well, I would say yes, I would think they are better employees. Why are they better employees? Well, I think that they problem solve. I mean, they're always usually, instead of being stuck in a problem, they're looking for the solution. I think they're better to be around. I mean, they bring good energy to the workplace. I just like being around positive people more than negative people. I'm not sure what other people have to say. Please chime in. So, good. So Victoria said, I think it's in relation to why do people tend to ignore their strengths. Victoria, and hi, Victoria. Good to see you again. Says, I think it starts when we are kids. And I think there's something to that. I think that not all the time, but a lot of times as kids, we learn about our environment by the responses we get from people. And sometimes if there is, again, a jarring experience, we think, oh, I'm wrong, I need to think differently. Also, if we're around negative people, that becomes how we think. So I could see that. Not all the time, but some. And Alex says, I like to show my strengths in action, but not talk or brag about them. I'm so with you. Good. Alex, we don't like to make ourselves bigger than others. Interesting. I'm not sure if that's everybody. I can think of a lot of certain individuals right now in the news that seem to like to make themselves bigger than they really are, which I think is a tactic to deal with fear. But I think we also make ourselves smaller than we really are in relation to the same thing, that same fear. But interesting. Good. So my dad says, do people have full freedom to be positive? What about a person surrounded by war, poverty, and abuse? Interesting. So I want to kind of divide that question into two parts, or rather make sure that in my answer that I'm clear about two different parts of it. So do people have full freedom to be positive? I would say yes. As in, we always have a choice of how we think about a situation. I loved in the Diary of Anne Frank, I believe she says that something, I'm butchering this, but basically, no matter what has happened, I still believe people are good, or something to that effect. I think that, again, our circumstances, I don't want to judge the situation as, oh, it's not that bad, because the horrible situations, but I think we always have an opportunity in the situation to choose at, are we going to be negative or positive? I think the more extreme situations there are, the harder it is to be positive. And if someone can't be positive, I don't want to say, you're doing it wrong, like someone who has cancer. I can't tell you how you should feel. That's a personal journey. I do believe the opportunity is always there, if you want it, to try to take a positive attitude. Now, I think that in relationship to that answer, it's always figure out what positive is. So Alex said true, LOL. So, yes. What other questions do you have or thoughts? This is great. Thank you, guys. If anyone wants to chat too, Mike, if you see anybody who wants to talk, let me know. I don't see any requests to join me, but I would love to have other speakers join me. So definitely feel free to. Anything else? Anything else? Okay, well, I actually had a question online. I have to look on my phone together. So, and actually, I think we kind of already touched on this. Well, there's actually two questions. One is a positive outlook on life 100% good? For example, if one is too trusting, others may take advantage of him or her. And that's interesting because in that question, I heard a little bias just in my own ears, is that if you are positive, that you are innocent or naive. Just because someone's positive does not mean that they're not aware. I can be very positive and still be aware and be present. So I think that is there a tendency for people to be too? I heard that Victoria wants to speak, so I'm going to speak in 1 second, Victoria. But to answer that, I think that I kind of forgot what I was saying. Can you tell this is my second webinar? There's a lot going on. The question was 100%. Oh, I think that there can be a tendency, though, for people to use positivity not to see reality or not to be accepting of what is. So positivity does not mean that we're in denial. Positivity means accepting what is and then choosing kind of how you're going to look at it. I hope that makes sense. Okay. And Victoria said she just found out she can't speak with Internet Explorer. I did not know that. Mike, did you know that? Let me see if I can get her. Let's see. Victoria, return as an attendee. I hope I didn't just. It says Chrome people. Okay. I guess Victoria, you're gonna have to chat with me tonight. So as in chatting, as in putting in your chats. So, but feel free to keep putting more stuff in. Anybody else have any other questions, comments? This has been a great discussion. Thank you. Yeah, kind of piggybacking on that last thought. So I consider myself a pretty positive person. I'm not positive all the time, as my friend Max, who's on the line, will tell you. I'm not always positive, but I had a woman one time that I worked with she seemed to get very angry at me. She's like, do you always look at things positive? Do you always look at everything positively? And I thought, well, first of all, no, I don't. But then I thought, things are just, life's easier when I think of things positively. Yes, there's lots of negative things that happen in the world, but there's also lots of good things. And I think last week I shared that, maybe it was another seminar I was giving. I've given quite a few in the last couple of days or in the last couple of weeks. But something to think about is that in our world, like at any given time, there are 3 billion stimuli around us at any given second. And our mind can process about 250,000 of those stimuli. So we are never seeing the whole story, okay? But those 250,000 stimuli that we do see out of 3 billion, well, we can tell our mind kind of what we're looking for. So if we're always looking for the negative, if we're always looking at how we are messing up or how we're not doing things well enough, we're going to see examples of that everywhere. But on the flip side of that, if we tell our mind to think of or to look for those things that are going right, though the beauty in the world, the times when people are nice to us, well, out of the 3 billion stimuli, our mind is those 250,000 stimuli that prove that we are right, that there is positivity. So whatever we believe, we're going to see. So that's something to think about this week. But as you're working on all this stuff, I realize if you're not positive, like you said, well, Bob said I should be positive. Don't beat yourself up. So many times people, I myself, will think positive. I should be in a good mood. And then I beat myself up because I'm not in a good mood, which just compounds my moodness. So what I suggest is, meet yourself where you're at. You know what? I'm not in a good mood is what it is. At that point, when you acknowledge where you're at, then you can move a little bit. Then you can say, great, well, maybe I'll just start looking for one good thing. I don't believe the whole world is good, but maybe I'll look for one thing that's good. Or maybe I'll think of one thing I'm grateful for. And then you can move on from there. Here's a great, Mike. I wonder where this question comes from, Mike. But Mike said, should you waste time trying to salvage relationships with people who can't stand a positive attitude? What an interesting question. I don't know if you should or not. I mean, you get to choose. I would say I prefer to be around people who tend to be positive, and not positive all the time, because I want people who are real and are not always happy. But people who are consistently negative, I don't know if I consciously don't have them in my life. I just don't find them in my life. Negativity to me is just, life is too short. Life is too short. So to answer your question, should you salvage relationships? I don't know. That's kind of, if they're working for you, then yes. If they're not working for you, then you should probably rethink that relationship. But I will say for me that positive people, they find their way into my life because that's an important value to me. So anybody else, because we're kind of running out of time. So anybody else have anything else to say? Again, this has been a really awesome conversation. So Max's 2 cents is, nope, don't salvage relationships, move on. Yep. And Mike Coughlin says, thanks. Can you guys see? Oh, you guys can see each other saying this. Why am I reading these when you guys can see them? See, I'm learning about webinars. I so appreciate you guys being a part of this and for sticking with this as I learn more and more. So I think that's about it. So unless there's any last second questions. Gone. As I get a phone call. I need to turn off my phone. Okay, so thank you everybody for attending this webinar. Next week, the journey of a recovering perfectionist. I can't wait to talk about that. It's next Thursday at the exact same time. If you will go to that link, you can sign up and join us next week like we've been doing. And Alex, he pops in with something. You guys are seeing this. Why am I trying to read it? Thanks, Alex, for that. Okay, so I will see you guys next week. Have a great night. Bye.